Hi, this is Josh Berry from the BALSAMS Grand Resort in Dixville Notch, New Hampshire. Wintertime's here, and we have a great dish, wonderful classical beef Wellington that we're going to share with you today. Okay, so what we have here is fillet of beef. This is what would be considered the Chateaubriand. This is the center part of the beef, the best of the fillet, and the best of the tenderloin. What we're going to do is I'm going to take one slice and cut a 6 to 7 ounce fillet of beef from this. Beautifully trimmed by our butcher shop. Okay, the rest of this we'll save. Look at this wonderful marbling in here. Now, marbling, this white specks of fat, is what makes beef so wonderful in any proteins. What's going to happen is when we cook this piece of meat, this is how we can get a medium well, a medium rare out of it. When that fat is going to cook faster than the protein around it. So it's going to cook the meat right around the fat, and it will slowly cook up, and when we flip it over, it'll cook from the other side down. When you cook a piece of tuna or swordfish, for instance, that will cook from well done to raw because it doesn't have the marbling like this tenderloin does, or sirloin or ribeye does. Okay, it's a wonderful, wonderful way to enjoy the meat. The more marbling, the better. Okay, so we're going to take this. We're going to put a little bit of some kosher salt. We want to just make sure that gets rubbed right into the meat. I'm going to crack some pepper on it. Now, I always like to put black pepper when I deal with meat, just because once it hits this pan, it's going to caramelize more. And that caramelization, it's really going to bring out the flavor of the pepper. Whenever you use ground spices, the ones in the stores, those could have been ground a year ago. So freshly ground pepper, freshly ground nutmeg, cinnamon, you're going to get a lot more flavor for your buck when you deal with that. So right here I have a nice hot saute pan. I'm going to put in a little bit of oil. See, it's got to that smoking. We know it's nice and hot now. I'm going to add our filet right in there. Give it a nice pat so it sits down, and the whole surface of the filet is going to sit on that pan and get nice and hot and seared. Okay. Now at this point you want to turn the heat down just a small amount. About medium high is what you're looking for on your saute pan. Not so it's too hot. What I have here is some fresh thyme, fresh rosemary from our garden, some picked garlic cloves that have just been cut in half, and a little bit of whole butter. I'm going to add all of this. Careful when you add your herbs, because they're going to splatter a little bit. These herbs are going to instantly fry in some of that hot fat, so be careful. As you can tell they've kind of popped. You can hear that popping sound. Now this is all flavoring for our filet. Okay, at this point we're going to add the butter. Okay. Okay. Basting, we're letting that filet get all this wonderful flavors. Okay. That fresh rosemary flavor. You can just imagine it at home. I know. I'm going to come here. And now we're going to start basting this olive oil and butter over our filet. Okay? We don't want it too hot because we don't want it to burn the herbs. We just want to get their natural oils out. Look at this garlic. Look at that garlic. It's getting nice and golden brown on that. That's what we want that. They're all marrying right now. They're all having a wonderful time in this saute pan, getting this nice golden color on the bottom. Now remember, when we're doing this, we're just searing the beef. Just to sear it. We're not going to cook it medium. We're not going to cook it, medium well in here now. That's going to happen in the oven when it's surrounded with the spinach and the mushroom d'Uxelles and the pâté de foie. But right now, we just want to get some flavor on our steak, okay? So, now we're going to flip it over. Look at that. Come on, right? Let me get you a close-up on that one. You see that? All right. Same thing. Just seared it over. We just want to baste that fat. Baste that fat right on top. You only want to cook it for about 2 minutes aside, just to get the caramelization. See, that's all we were looking. That's all we want right there. It's for flavor. That's the whole reason we're doing this. Remember, we're not going to cook it. That's still raw inside. Still raw. Okay? Okay. So I'm going to turn off our heat. Now, what we want to do with this is we just want to let this rest for a little bit, okay? One of the major, one thing that's very important about cooking proteins or cooking any meats or fish or chicken, letting the protein rest just as important as cooking it in the first place. So right now, the outside of that meat is very, there's a lot of things happening. The molecules inside are really pumping around. The juices are really flowing in right here. And right now, we just want to let it rest back down, let it come back down to room temperature. Because when we spread the foie gras, the pate on top, we don't want them to melt all off. When we put the mushroom duxelle in there, we want all of that to stay in one neat little package. That's what we're making. Beef Wellington has a fun history. The Duke of Wellington preferred a dish of beef wrapped with mushrooms and puff pastry, and he suggested that it be served at any party he was ever going to have. Even though he was not a man of very Epicurean standards, he didn't really care what he ate. He liked this particular dish. This dish was actually beneficial to him when he fought against Napoleon. A dish that had a starch on the outside, the mushrooms or spinach that was in the inside, and the beef that was made like a package, like a sandwich. And his army could travel around with this, and they didn't have to stop and cook and set up their meal. So this gave him a great advantage when choosing the battlefronts. So some wars were won on Wellington, I guess you could say. Another fun story about beef Wellington is in its larger form. Remember how we showed the Chateaubriand, the large fillet of beef? You could do that whole thing, sear the whole thing off, cover it with the pate and the mushrooms, and once it's wrapped in puff pastry and baked in the oven, it will resemble a Wellington rider's boot, like if you're for horse riding. And so that was another kind of fun story. But it is English in nature, and in France to this day, the same dish would just be called beef en croûte. They wouldn't go as far as to, reclaim the Duke of Wellington. They're not going to give that up. But it's still a wonderful dish. And while this is resting, we're going to talk about the mushroom duxelle. Mushroom duxelle is a dish of medley of different mushrooms, and they're going to be cooked down. Like right here, we have some shiitake mushrooms. These are portobello mushrooms. These are called cremini mushrooms or baby portobellos, and these are some sliced truffles. We're going to take all these mushrooms, cook them down with Madeira, which is a fortified wine, a sweet wine, and with salt and black pepper, and we're going to let that cook down for about an hour to 2 hours on very low heat. Mushrooms are over 50% water, so they have a lot of moisture in them. So we want to let them cook and cook and cook slowly down. Now, I've done this right here, so you can see. I've let those mushrooms cook down. They've been cooking down for the past couple hours. They've been mixed up with that Madeira wine, so they're nice and moist. All the flavors have been really married very well. And this is what we're going to use when we start to wrap up our Wellington. What I have here is just a piece of puff pastry. You can buy this in the store. I believe Pillsbury makes a wonderful brand, and Chef Holland, our pastry chef, makes this for us. It's basically flour and butter and a little bit of salt and water that have been folded over and folded over and folded over many, 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 many times. And what that does is all the butter layers, when they cook, they expand, and that's what gives you this very puff pastry nature. We're going to be doing this and wrapping our beef in it, okay? So what I have here is just some steamed off spinach. You could buy frozen spinach if you want, as long as you wring it out. It has to be completely dry. Remember, we're making a package with this. So what I want to do is just take a couple leaves of spinach. And this has just been dipped in boiling salted water really quick, just to wilt it. And then I wring it out with a dishcloth. So we're going to add a little bit of spinach right there. And then I take a small spoon of our mushroom duxelle. Okay. We've started the foundation of our product. Now we're going to come in here with our fillet, and we're going to put a little bit of pâté de foie. Pâté de foie, goose liver pâté, foie gras. A misconception is that these animals have been force-fed, and it's such a horrible product to use. And I really want to make a couple points clear. I spent a year in Switzerland after I graduated this apprenticeship program, and when I was there, I had the opportunity to go to a foie gras farm and to see these geese. And what I was told and what I became aware of is that migratory animals have gorging instincts where they have to eat so much at once to keep them on their migration flight. So their esophaguses are enormous. So what may look like force feeding is really just the natural habitat and the natural way of consuming product for the animal. So it's very natural for them to eat like that. But it's a wonderful product. It's one of the luxury ingredients that we like to use at the Balsams. And I'm just going to take a little bit of that, and I'm going to spread it right on top of our fillet. Okay? Spread it on top. Okay, the next one I'm going to put is right on this side. Okay, and we're going to put that right down in the center of our puff pastry with the mushrooms and the spinach.